If you've been writing JavaScript like this, there's a much better way, and you should stop right now. So there's a few problems with writing JavaScript with HTML and concatenating variables to it. One is that your markup and your JavaScript are in the same place, and you should keep those separate. You're constantly concatenating strings, which is annoying, and you have to do loops and stuff like this, which is also annoying. And you have weird line breaks, like here, and indentation. So you have these weird slashes at the end of each line, and this weird indentation here. So I'm going to show you how to fix this with Handlebars.js. Handlebars.js is a templating language for HTML. Their slogan is minimal templating on steroids. This is their website. So I'm going to use this library to show you how to get the exact same result we had before with the ugly concatenating strings and all that in Handlebars.js. So this is what that ugly code renders, and now let's do it with Handlebars. What I'm going to do is copy this, and I'm going to create a new script tag in my index.html file, and we're going to give this a type of text/template, and what that will do is it will say to the browser, don't run this, this is just text. If we add text/JavaScript, it would run like a regular JavaScript file, but we don't want this to run like a regular JavaScript file, so we put text/template. And I'm just going to paste this in here, and that's just so I can know what I have to recreate. The first thing we need is an h1 element, so let's do that. And then inside we have the title. So Handlebars is all about these double curly braces. That's called a Handlebars Expression. And if I just put title in there, it will say to the Handlebars compiler, look for in this object here, a key of title, and it will just spit that out in the place of this. And so we did this already. Then we need a UL with the class of people. Then we have this loop. So to do a loop, what I'm going to do is put a hash and then people. And in my object here, people is an array. So what the hash does is it will loop through the array. And I'm going to talk more about this later. And we close it like this. If you open it with a hash, you have to close it like you would close a regular HTML tag with the slash. And this is called a block expression, and it will loop through the array. It will also change the context. So instead of doing people.I, or this kind of syntax, where data.people and then this index, it will automatically change the context that we're in, so we don't have to do anything like that. We can create an list item, class equals person, and then inside we want an h3, and then we want the person's name. So what I meant by it changes the context is we don't have to do something like people and then this index and then name. It does that for us. All we have to do is put name, and it will know which person we're looping over right now. Let's close the h3. Then we want a div, and then say age, and then we want the age. Close that. Now we want an anchor tag where the href is a mail to, and then we can just put email in here. That will get the person's email. And close this and put contact, and then put their name again. Let's close this li, and then we want to close the loop and close the unordered list. For this template to actually work, we need to download the Handlebars.js JavaScript file. You can either grab that here, or you can install it or download it with Bower. So I'm in my project root right here, and I'm just going to type Bower, install, save, Handlebars. Okay, that took a while, but we should have Handlebars now. So let's go back into our project. Let's get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. And we need to include this script file. So script, and then the source will be equal to Bower components handlebars handlebars.js. Let's save this, and if we go back to our page, we have to save this. We won't get any result, so we have to compile our template here, and then we have to output it to the page with this data here. So to do that, we have to grab our tag here. So we should give it an ID. Let's say ID equals template, or people template would be better. Let's save that. So let's say var template equals, and then we use handlebars dot compile to compile our template, and we have to pass it a string. So we get this string from grabbing the script tag and getting the inner HTML. So we do document dot get element by ID. We called it people template. Then we do inner HTML. Now we have our template, so what we have to do is say our content, and that I just set up here to be equal to our section that has an ID of content. So content.inner HTML will be equal to our template, which will return a function. Handlebars.compile will return a function. So we do template, and then we pass it our data, which is an object. I just realized that I didn't have any document ready event listener here, so the scripts were getting loaded in order, and I had this script first, so I just put it at the end so that we would have the handlebars library load and our template load before the script loaded. So now if we go back to our browser, we should get the exact same thing we had before with our mail to links and everything. So this is a lot more easy to read than what we had before. It keeps our markup separate from our JavaScript, which is nice. It lets us do stuff like this to make loops, and we're going to look into this more later. This is actually what Handlebars calls a helper, and you can write your own helpers. And it fixes the weird indentation and line breaks we had before. So all in all, this is a great way to do HTML templating. So Handlebars is made up of these things they call expressions. So this is a basic expression. There's also the triple curly brace expression, which doesn't escape strings. By default, strings are escaped. The triple curly brace doesn't escape the string. There's comments, and then there's helpers and block helpers. So first I'm going to show you the triple curly brace. So if we had something in our data object, like just call it bold and put some bold text. If we try to put this on our page with the regular Handlebars expression, so we do this, save, come to our browser, we get these as text. So it runs and converts the angle brackets to HTML entities, so they're rendered on the page. If we use 3 curly braces, however, it renders as bold text because it doesn't convert, Handlebars doesn't convert the angle brackets to HTML entities, so it's actually in a bold tag. There's also comments, so the way you do that is with a exclamation mark in the beginning of your expression. You can also have 2 dashes like that, but this is simpler. So you can put this is a comment, and that will not create an HTML comment. If I look in here, there's no HTML comment. The way you do an HTML comment in Handlebars is still like this. So that will still create an HTML comment. But this is ignored by the compiler. Now to expressions and block expressions. Handlebars comes out of the box with some helpers. If you come all the way down on their homepage, you can click learn more about built-in helpers. So if is a block helper, and the difference between a block helper and a regular helper is you can put other tags inside of a block helper and it will change the scope or the context that you're in. So we can see here, if author, then the context will change, so you can use, instead of author.firstname and author.lastname, you can just use first name and last name. So this is if there's an author key in the object you pass Handlebars, then it will output this. You can also use else, so if that key does not exist in the object, do this, and then you close the if with the slash. Unless is like if, but if not, so if there is not a license, output this. Each is kind of like what I already showed you with each people. That's the same as just putting people. It will list through all the people, but I can change in my code here, instead of putting people like this, I can put each, and I'll have to change it down here too. And as far as I can tell, this will do the exact same thing. So if we come back, it will still render the same. There's also with, lookup, log. This one is a regular helper, not a block helper. And you can tell because it doesn't start with a hash. And you can also make your own helpers. So I'm going to make one now. This is not going to be a block helper. So to make a helper, what you do is you type handlebars and then register helper. You give it a name, so I'm going to call this one bold, and then a function as the second parameter. You put, and it will return one argument, and that will be whatever you put after the helper. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. Then what we want to do is say text is equal to handlebars dot escape expression, the text, because we want to escape the text before we put it out on the page, because if that's coming from a user or something, then you would want to make sure that there's no HTML characters in there or HTML tags. And then we want to return a new handlebars dot safe string, and then we're going to put a bold tag because we want this function to, or this helper to make a line of text bold. We put text in between, then we close the bold tag. One thing to note is that we already had a key of bold in our object, so let's get rid of that so handlebars doesn't get confused if we mean the helper or the key. And then we're going to test this helper by making the title bold. So now our title is wrapped in an h1 tag and a bold tag. So now let's make a block helper. So we want to do handlebars.register helper. We're going to call this one list. Give our function. This, because it's a block helper, we'll get two parameters. We're going to call them items and options. So what we want to do is create a variable called out. We're going to make that equal to an unordered list. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a for loop. We're going to put one variable called I, or make that equal to 0, and length will be equal to items.length. While I is less than length, we're going to say I will become greater by 1. Then we're going to say output. We're going to concatenate on a list item. And then what we want to do is do options.fn and then pass items and then the current index. And the reason we do this is because this will return whatever is inside of our block. And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. Then we want to close our list item. And we're going to return out plus, and then we have to close our unordered list and save. So to use this, we can get rid of this and say list people, close that, and then we can do something like name in an h1, say, and we'll do a div and we'll just put email. And this is what I meant by whatever's inside here. So this will return this, but compiled with the name and the email. So if we want to test this out, we can come over here and we'll get an unordered list, and then it will loop through all the people and return an H1 with their name and a div with their email address. One more thing I should say is for this video I was using the Handlebars Sublime text package for syntax highlighting. So right now I have my syntax set to HTML, and if I change this to Handlebars, you can see we get the nice syntax highlighting. And you can use this with inline handlebars templates like this. It shouldn't break your syntax highlighting on HTML. You can see that my HTML still looks fine. Another thing is that this is not the best way to do handlebars templating. There's an even better way, and I'm going to show you how to do it in my upcoming Gulp series. So if you want to see that, I'm going to put an annotation right here and a link in the video description.